Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Well, welcome. My name is Jerry Teo, and I want to welcome you once again to the Healing Generations podcast. We're so blessed to have you today, and thank you for joining us. This podcast of Healing Generations is really focused at bringing forth the wisdom and the teachings and the medicine of our ancestors, and we know we need it in this time. It also is about healing the generations of trauma and wounds and oppression and discord and everything that has come through, over, hundreds of years of inequity, of racism, of oppression, of hurt and woundedness. And so that's, really our focus here. And I always like to begin the way I was taught by acknowledging Creator and acknowledging ancestors. I want to really thank the ancestors, all of our ancestors that came before us and gave us these teaching, gave us these ways, prayed for us, blessed us, forgave us, picked us up, supported us, but never gave up on us. And I also want to welcome them in because we know that they struggled through a lot, and maybe the ancestors sitting with us here today, maybe there'll be a little more healing that goes on, and they can guide us along our way. So I want to just and welcome those ancestors, acknowledge you, all of you that are listening, and acknowledge your ancestors, wherever you come from, whatever roots. You may have 2, 3 roots, and that's beautiful. You know, bring all your ancestors, bring all your grandmas, bring all your grandpa, bring them all together. We're gonna circle up today because we need everyone. We need all the prayers, we need all the teachings, all the medicine today, so we can go forward in a good way. And so I thank you and I welcome you, and I feel so blessed today to have with us just a really good friend of mine. I consider her like a sister. We worked together for many, many years, and I feel privileged to know her. I've learned so much along the journey from her, and just I'm enjoy when we do things together, and we've been able to work together, but also to learn together along the path. And the person that I'm talking about is Monica Haslip, and she has a whole host of credentials and experiences and things that you can read on her website. But what I want you to know is that she is really a wise spirit, a wise person, a wonderful, beautiful person. She's also the founder and director of Little Black Pearl, which is a school, but it really is a space and a place for children and family and community. But it's really focused on bringing arts and culture and music and all the creativity to life, bringing that brilliance that children carry within them to life so that they can find their sacred purpose. So really happy to have Monica here with us. And so I want to say welcome, Monica, and allow you to greet the audience today.
Thank you, Jerry. Welcome. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity to hold space and be with you today. I'm so excited every time I get a chance to spend time with you. Such a blessing every opportunity that we get to share, and even with the work that we do together, but just to talk and to be able to share and talk about life and what's going on in our worlds. It's such a beautiful opportunity to just be, in communion and in space with you. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I wanted to begin by just allowing you to share a little bit about who you are. Where your people from, your journey. From I think from Alabama, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So from Alabama, to just talk about that journey of your people, your ancestors, and your journey to where you are now. Maybe you can share a little bit about that with us.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town outside of Birmingham, Alabama called Roosevelt City. It was a very small Black community. And my I grew up on the block, and across the street was the mayor of my little town,
Hmm.
and had a very interesting community that I grew up in. My parents, my father was a postman,
Hmm.
and but he had a relationship with the earth that was so incredible. He loved gardening. He had three gardens that were really on lots that were larger than the land that our house was on. And
Hmm.
he spent most of his time out there growing produce and, driving around in his little yellow truck, giving it away. He gave away a lot of the things that he grew. And my father's name was Willie, and my mother's name is Cleopatra.
Hmm.
And Cleopatra was a librarian, just a beautiful, strong sister, quiet, but um, just really one of the most incredible mentors and examples of strength and courage and beauty that I've had in my life. I was very blessed to um, have the opportunity to be raised by them. I
Hmm.
didn't learn until I was older how much my father contributed to my life
Hmm.
because of just the challenges that I had with him growing up. But upon reflection and looking at the life that I had growing up in Roosevelt, he played a real critical role because
Hmm.
he showed me early on how important it was to give to community.
Hmm.
He did it um, in a very, quiet way. He gardened and gave away produce, but he also was a coach
Hmm.
uh, for kids in the community, coaching baseball. And I'm the youngest of five. I had a set of siblings that were 12, 13, and 14 years older than me.
Hmm.
Then I have a sister that's a couple of years older. So she and I basically grew up together.
Hmm.
And it was a small neighborhood. Early on, my mother sort of discovered uh, that I had a bit of a artistic talent.
Hmm.
And my neighborhood, I had been looking forward as a kid to going to the high school that all my siblings went to.
Hmm.
Then by the time it was time for me to go, they were getting ready to, integrate a high school
Hmm.
um, that was about an hour away from my house. And, it was something that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have to go someplace outside of my community. It was an all white school that we were being bused to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My mom, who was incredible. She just stopped at that moment and said, you have a choice.
Hmm.
You know, she knew about this art school downtown in Birmingham that I would have to audition to get into.
Hmm.
And at the time, I didn't know anything. My world was so small. I had grown up in this small community, had only primarily seen Black people, was
Hmm.
not around a lot of other people. And my mother hired this young man in my neighborhood to teach me how to create a portfolio so I could
Hmm.
audition. And, I auditioned and she told me, she said, listen, if you get in, I'll find a way to get you there every day.
Wow.
And that's what she did.
Hmm.
I got in, I auditioned and got in, and she found a way to get me there every day. And, that was a moment that sort of shaped my life. And
Hmm.
I developed a relationship with art that has carried through to the work that I do today.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it started there though. It started from a place of not wanting to be told what my life was going to be like by somebody else,
Hmm.
telling me I had to go to school someplace I didn't want to go,
Hmm.
and having a parent who was, courageous enough
Yeah.
to let me try something different,
Hmm.
and um, and then finding a way for me
Hmm.
to do it.
Yeah.
She made $12,000 a year as a librarian.
Hmm.
So, it was not an easy thing to do,
Yeah.
but she made it happen. So that's sort of the family that I come from.
Hmm. I can just imagine, I just see your dad in that yellow truck, just going around town. But you said he was, close to the earth and grew things. And, I can see, that gift in you of growing, of nurturing and then giving away. It's very, and then your mother being that librarian, that the search for knowledge, and so I know where you get it from now. I I could I could tell, and it's beautiful that you were able to really begin to explore your creativity that way. But I also know, I mean, just in people that have lived similar experiences know the subtleties, of what you're talking about when you say that you didn't want to go to a white school and you didn't want to have to go far away from your home, and having to experience and being the first and having to be courageous. That courageous is not just about, oh, let me just try something new. It's really many times about struggling for your identity and
Mhm.
struggling to maintain who you really are, and struggling to stay close to the sacredness of what your that hardworking mother and father would want for you. And
Mhm.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that, and what were those challenges, and you know getting to getting through, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think it for me it has always been um, coming from a place where my parents, um, I watched them struggle, but I also watched a level of resilience
Hmm.
that really, shaped me in a way that I am so clear about my own constitution.
Hmm.
I don't know how to really
Hmm.
say that any other way. My mother, I always tell people that she changed history,
Huh.
and when I think about it, the backstory of her life really is probably the richest part of her life.
Hmm.
The story. My mother went to the Supreme Court.
What?
Yeah, and she fought one of the largest insurance companies in the country,
Hmm.
and she won.
What?
It took 9 years for that to happen. And the 9 years of watching her struggle, and the 9 years of watching these large corporations, take a really threatening posture because of the position that she had taken, and the backstory of that, and understanding what it did to my family, and understanding what we endured. It really helped me to understand in my own work that there is a beauty in patience.
Hmm.
There is a beauty in clarity of intention.
Hmm.
Understanding why you're doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
My mother, when she took on that journey, she made it very clear to her children that her intention was to ensure that nobody, whoever came behind her, never had to experience what she experienced.
Hmm.
So the idea of all the sacrifices that my family made and that she made to stay on that path and to take that journey, it made me strong in my own sort of understanding of intention.
Hmm.
Uh, to really endure some of the difficulties that I've had to face in my work and doing the things that I've been trying to do over the last 26 years in my community.
Hmm.
I was able to endure the tough times because I had watched my mother and my father, but my mother in particular, stand in front of a very, what seemed to be impossible situation,
Hmm.
and to have enough faith and courage to just be patient enough to do what needed to be done to see it through.
Yeah.
And so that's always sort of my attitude about my work and the things that I do in my life. I'm always searching my heart to make sure that my intentions are good and
Hmm.
that, I'm doing things for the right reasons. And
Hmm.
then, having enough courage to stand in front of things when they don't turn out the way I anticipate, and know that they will be um, they will be good. All will be well in the end.
Hmm. Wow.
I got to watch that, and
Yeah.
that's a gift.
Yeah. Well, and I think, your mother standing up against injustice and having enough courage. I mean, just to think that you would want to do that and you could do that is one thing, but then 9 years of persistence to see something through, and I'm sure that you mentioned the sacrifices for your family. I'm sure you had to go through a tremendous amount of sacrifice, but you being able to witness that and see that, I mean, and I think this is part of healing is us recapturing a narrative of what this world doesn't know. This world, has a perception of many of our people and many of our parents and our ancestors, and don't realize the tremendous lessons. I mean, I imagine that 9 years was like a whole schooling for you.
Oh,
Whole schooling about how do you deal with injustice in the
mhm,
society and not lose yourself. And it is, sometimes the mamas and the daddies and the grandmas and the grandpas that nobody even recognizes or understands that have been doing this for generations, that
mhm,
in the same way plant those seeds in you, uh,
mhm.
and now you can then give those and transfer those to other people as well. I mean, it's beautiful just thinking about that. And even me not knowing your mother, I know her in you because we've worked together, and sometimes I want to move real quickly and address things, and you say, "Wait a minute, let's take some time here."
Mhm,
You
mhm.
settle me down a little bit. Let it
Mhm.
happen. It's going to happen. We're going to get there. you know, and I see where that comes from. That the beauty of that patience, but beneath that patience, is a sense of faith, is a
Yeah,
sense of knowing it's going to be okay. We're going
yeah,
to do all right here. And I don't think people really understand and appreciate that the significant values that people of color and African rooted people who have you all have had to struggle with so much, and my people too, and Native people, all of us, those teachings are profound and significant, and and we carry them today.
yeah.
We carry them today.
And they teach by demonstration,
Yeah.
and that's such a powerful way to learn.
Mm.
My mother didn't put us down through every step,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't hide a lot either.
Mm.
She let us see, all of it. She
Yeah.
helped us to understand the importance of transparency and feeling, your strength even in the midst of, challenges,
Hmm.
and that is a huge thing because Black people and people of color, we are always, trying to overcome, challenges
Hmm.
that, obviously are unfair and unjust. But, you know, what I love about us is that, there is a faith and a faithfulness
Mm.
that anchors sort of this spirit in us. There's a joyful. I just was talking the other day about Black joy, you
Mm.
know, and the fact that, you know, people often, feel this moment in time here in this country is
Hmm.
interesting because we as Black people have demonstrated, even in this dark moment, how powerful joy is
Mm.
in us. I think about folk in Georgia.
Mm.
A friend of mine was telling me that a lot of the polling sites, many people, they brought out food and
Mm.
they brought out music and they brought chairs for elders. That's who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's who we are.
Mm.
And, you know, even though barriers were being put up and
Hmm.
people were working really hard to keep us from having a voice, we sort of brought forth
Mm.
power of love and joy
Mm.
that overcame all of that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and
Hmm.
that to me is such a reminder of something that is so familiar to me,
Mm.
with my family. I also grew up in an environment where my father was an alcoholic, and
Mm.
so he had his struggles too.
Yeah.
And so I was the biggest person in my family, basically. I was taller than everybody. So I was the one always trying to be the protector. And
Mm.
so we had a difficult relationship. But before he transitioned, I had the opportunity to really know him
Hmm.
as his sober self.
Wow.
And all the things that were so beautiful about him, I could appreciate more,
Mm.
because he got to tell his story.
Mm.
And I think the opportunity for us to share our stories, even our parents sharing their stories with us,
Hmm.
is so important because it helps us to really know what we're made of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what we can handle.
Yeah. Wow. That's so beautiful to hear, that you created and held that space for your father, that you opened that opportunity for him to retell his story without, the substance that was probably helped him survive.
Right.
But you gave him the opportunity to say, Daddy, you don't need that no more.
Hmm.
Let's have a relationship. And I think that's a very hard thing to do for many of us. We recognize that many of us, and probably all people of color, have experienced tremendous pain and trauma, and it's impacted our families. It's impacted our families in such a way that's impacted the way they parent and the way they relate and all of that. So we have parents that have woundedness and struggle and addiction and all of those things. And the question becomes, how do we heal that, and how do we allow the process of healing to take place? And I think what you just shared right there is that that opportunity that you gave your father, not only your father, but gave you too,
That's
to to
right.
to hear another part of the story, so that when he transitioned, you could carry all of his story and to decide what part you carry on. And
That's right.
and I think that's a beautiful example of healing. Of,
Hmm.
of, of,
Yeah,
of you know.
I feel blessed to have been given that opportunity.
Mm,
My father, he had an aneurysm and he
mm,
was close to death. And
mm,
so he was in intensive care for 3 months.
mm,
And I used to go home on the weekends, and my family, we would all take turns sleeping and staying in the intensive care waiting room because, like, there would be these 15-minute blocks
mm,
where we could go in and see him. And so we would just stay in the waiting room and go in and be with him. And so I remember a couple of times going in for my 15 minutes and just praying and
mm,
and and pleading and saying, I need you to stick around
mm,
because I need to understand more.
mm,
And the doctors had basically told our family he would not live. And if he did live, he would never walk or talk or any of that.
mm.
And he woke up. He
Whoa.
walked, he talked, he fished, he did everything he did,
Wow.
but just in his sober mind.
Mm,
And to me, that was a miracle and it was a gift, not just for him to have the opportunity to share his story, but for me to learn the blessings of forgiveness
mm,
and me to learn that forgiveness was not about just forgiving him. It was, forgiveness was also for me.
mm.
And so that changed my life too,
Wow.
because it made me have a whole different kind of compassion and empathy.
I when I share with people about relationships and especially about children, I talk about the first fundamental teaching is being wanted and
Mhm.
being connected to, and that fundamental teaching is what all people need and all people want. And in fact, the opposite of that is racism, right? Because when you're not wanted and you're not seen in a good way and you're not seen in a sacred way or a blessed way, that's what racism is. But the opposite of that is healing.
Mhm.
And what you did right there is say, I want you.
Mhm.
I need to be with you.
Yeah.
Come back and let's journey some more. And I believe, that when we do that with folks that are hurting and are wounded or stuck, that it invites them to continue their journey.
Yeah.
And it invites them, to recover, if you will, a part of their story that they never got to tell or they never really got to express, right?
Mhm.
And that's beautiful, the way that you were able to do that with your father. Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is a big part of my story.
Mm,
I I think that if I always tell people I was sort of at a crossroad, and I feel like if I didn't have that opportunity, my life could be very different.
mm, yeah, yeah,
Because we all have choice.
yeah.
You know, so I I got the blessing of being able to choose to be my better self.
Hmm. Speaking of that, I want to transition a little bit to the struggles that we're going through in our society today,
Yeah.
because we've learned a lot in the last 4 years, and truth has revealed itself. I mean, it was hiding for a long time, and many of us knew it was there, but truth in terms of the disconnection in this world and how people value or devalue each other, has been around, forever, but really kind of raised its ugly head very deeply and very hurtfully for a lot of people. I wonder if you could talk about how you see that in the world, and what do you think we need to do as a people? What do we need to do as a nation? What do we need to do as people of color, in order to recover the sacredness, and but at the same time address the injustice and the inequity that's present.
Yeah, well, I think that this is a very challenging time, but there are some gifts that have come out of this moment.
Mm,
I think the reality of the truth, us being able to really have more of a clear understanding of where we are as a nation,
mm,
and what is the mindset of the
mhm.
people in
Yeah,
this country.
yeah.
We've had years of people trying to pretend that there was this post-racial world
Mm,
that we were living in because we had a black president and all
mm,
of the progress that was made. But I feel like in this moment we see the real truth,
mhm,
and in order for us to begin the journey of really, becoming or reaching our potential as a collective humanity, we need to know what we're dealing with. And we have now seen where we are as a country, and that there are, a large number of people in this country who could trade their values for an alignment with an individual
mm.
who believes in white supremacy,
Yeah.
or who believes that there are people who are better than others.
Mm,
And, we are really in a position now, I think, where we can listen to young people,
mhm,
because I think that they are bringing a different kind of courage to this equation. I believe that it's a moment to change the narrative, to expand it, to
mm,
be more reflective of the truth
mhm.
of this country. And that's with us telling our stories. I mean, nobody would ever know that Cleopatra Haslip defined in this country the whole issue of punitive damages.
Mm,
I know that because that was my mama.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, that narrative has never really entered the conversation
Right.
in a way that people recognize the power that regular people have
Mhm,
to make change in this country.
mm.
And that they have done things that people have done
That's
over the
right.
years
Yeah.
that make change.
Mhm,
And so I believe that this is the moment where we have to really embrace the platforms and the vehicles. I love what you're doing
mm,
because it's an opportunity for us to expand the narrative. It's an opportunity for us to share stories so people can begin to really understand what this place is built on,
mhm.
and uh, the story that we've been told is not the real story.
Mhm,
And so the way we get that truth out is that we all have to value our own individual stories, and we have to be willing to share them in a way that people recognize that the fabric of this place is made up of our ancestors and people who have sacrificed and done extraordinary things for us to be here in
mm.
this moment,
Yeah.
and for us to continue to fight uh, the battle that we have to fight against racism and all the other isms
Right.
that show up, in this place.
You know, you mentioned children, and I know that children are a major focus of the work that you do now, and You started a school in, was it 1994?
Yeah.
Yeah, you started a school, so you've had that school for a while, and tell us about Little Black Pearl and your focus and your intent about, and I know it's all about art and culture, and so tell us about that and how you are taking the lessons that you learned from your mother and your father and your experience and art school and everything, and now watering that garden, right?
Mhm.
And standing in the face of injustice in this school that you have helped create.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, Little Black Pearl for me has been a my demonstration of how I felt I could do like social justice
Mm,
work.
mhm,
I felt that, as an artist, I had to, well, first of all, my own experience, my work is informed by my experience.
mhm,
So I actually am my children. I am my children. So my children, the children that I have in my school, are young people who didn't necessarily fit in other places,
mm,
or they didn't necessarily feel comfortable in their own skin.
mm,
So I created a school that is founded on love and that really is designed for us to take in young people who need a different kind of nurturing
mm,
and a way for them to see people who look like them
mhm,
and who have, in a lot of cases, lived a very similar experience,
mhm,
be examples of possibilities. The reason my presence, I think, has been important physically in that space is simply because I get to tell my story. I get to tell them I started in my basement with nothing,
mm.
and that, the space that they stand in, I built a $10 million facility for them.
Wow.
And so for them to see that kind of possibility to me is an important part of the work. And also understanding too that, as artists, we often are diminished
Mhm.
in value.
Yeah.
People say we are starving artists and all of that. So I always wanted to show them how their natural gifts, that's all that they need
Mm,
to be successful in their lives.
mhm,
And so a part of our tagline for the organization is the business of art.
mm,
So a lot of what we do in that place is create examples for young people to learn about how to take their gifts and create opportunities for them to make a living.
mm,
And to make a living either as a professional artist or take those transferable skills and move into other arenas or become entrepreneurs. But when they leave us, they have enough information and enough self value and
mm.
self worth
Yeah.
to understand that they have what they need to be successful.
Right.
So I have some young people. I have a young sister who's out there with you,
Oh, really?
and she started with me at 12.
Hmm.
Uh, and Pia is now, she owns a 200-acre nut farm out in California. And
Wow.
she's distributing and selling nuts to Williams Sonoma and everybody. And
Really?
yeah, and she grew up around the corner and she stayed with me until, I mean, she comes and she volunteers constantly and has done that since she was 12. So,
Wow.
I think that for me, it always has been about showing them that they have what they need,
Yeah.
that you can excel at whatever it is your heart desires. To
Mm,
me, if it's in your head, And if you can speak it out loud and you move your feet to do the work, it's going to happen. The universe connects to that. That's how the vibrations in the universe work.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Talk to me a little bit about some of these teachings, because you said it's built on love. And what are the teachings that are significant, that you feel are significant to give young people on their path? I mean, you mentioned teaching them also about entrepreneurship and how do you transform a gift into business. But what is the rooted sense? Because I know, I mean, I've talked to you about this before. I want you to share it with the audience. What are some rooted teachings or rooted values that run throughout that school, that your children in that school get from being in a loving atmosphere, if you will?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, my team, I always say to them, the greatest gift we could give young people is to listen to them, to care about them,
Hmm.
to tell the truth,
Hmm.
and to love them.
Wow.
And so, that is at the core of who we are as a community there. So, a part of what happens is when young people come to us and they've endured many of the challenges that they endure in school, and public school in particular, they feel broken. I mean, they're not broken, but they feel broken.
Hmm.
And so, for us, it's about you know um, giving them enough love and nurturing and enough information and encouraging them to be curious, because it is the curiosity, it is the awakening of their interest in learning. It's, I think, because it's been so sort of limited to the way in which people teach young people in this country. We teach them to research and find the truth,
Hmm.
and that truth you then come back and give to us and help us better understand
Hmm.
what we're looking at.
Hmm.
And that's a different approach. That's an empowering approach.
Yeah.
That's a way for them to, a lot of my work with them is based on them responding to briefs. So
Hmm.
I bring corporations into the school environment and they'll present a brief to them. And our students have to actually produce
Hmm.
based on those briefs.
Wow.
Those briefs really invite them to share their own stories and share their own understanding of a truth about something,
Hmm. Hmm.
and to translate that into a creative product that people can relate to.
Yeah.
And the empowerment that happens from that, when they see that, for example, products that they buy and that they've had an affection for all of their lives, not really understanding how that is made. Once they do the work and do the research and learn about, some of these products that they uh, worship,
Hmm.
they began to dismantle that kind of the admiration
Right.
for that,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
begin to understand the possibility of them being able to change or transform or create or
Mm.
expand,
Yeah.
you know, what that is,
Yeah.
and from their own ideas.
Yeah.
And so that takes a different kind of nurturing,
Yeah.
and what we try to do in that place is to just inspire them, to turn them on. I tell my team, our job is to turn them on and get out the way,
Mm.
to
Hmm.
let them go find the answers and come back to us. Don't
Right.
I'm not necessarily trying to. share with them everything I think is the answer.
Hmm.
I want to learn from them. I want them to tell me what the answers
Right.
are. And so that's how I think we build
Yeah.
the future.
And you make it sound so simple, but the reality is it's extremely profound, and actually it's the opposite of what we find in many educational settings. And you said love, and that's the first one, right? You got to love these kids. And when
Mhm.
we find as we work in schools, many times teachers, they don't really like our kids. they they,
Nope.
they try and get them out as soon as they can, and the kids know that, right? but
Yeah.
but then the second thing you said that I think is powerful is that the children come think they're broken, but you said no. You change the narrative that they feel broken, but they're really not. And you being able to correct that narrative for them that no, this is not your stuff, baby. These are not your things, right?
Right.
Let's help you unpack those and release those because
Yep.
society has put those on you, and especially for children of color, they don't realize all the woundedness of society that's been put on them. And I think
Hmm.
and I think about the expectation many times of children that when children do well in our conventional educational institutions, we think, oh, they're doing well. No, it's almost like how is it that someone comes from a broken society and in a broken system and does well? That's not healthy. So
Right.
when they're acting out, that's really in line with what's really going on, right? But then
Yep.
but then I think that the other part that you shared is creativity, sharing
Hmm.
with them that they have within themselves the creativity to develop whatever they want,
Hmm.
whatever their world needs to look like. And that is tremendously profound. All three of those things are fundamentals that I think that we miss, and that obviously, with art and your creativity in there, that you've been able to nurture and develop, and what a gift to so many children. I'm wondering, as we close today, if I could ask you to just share some advice, some counsel, some wisdom, and because we're talking about the children, I'm going to ask you to share with this society and this world, what do children need? What do our children need, especially children of color, especially children that have been disenfranchised? What is it that we need to be giving them? And it may be just what we talked about right now, but you've been doing this a long time, and you have a lot of teachings. And what kind of advice, what kind of counsel would you give to people if it truly is our intent to love and to honor and to grow children with sacred purpose?
Well, I think the first gift that we can give to children is the knowingness that they have everything that they need.
Mm,
If we love them, if we listen to them,
hmm.
it's listening to them and really inviting them to bring forward the best part of themselves.
Mm,
Because every child has beauty in them.
mm,
And so, because we have so many, they're burdened by so many challenges. They don't get the gift of really being children because they're really carrying so much weight and so much responsibility so early. And so giving children the opportunity to just be children,
hmm.
to be taken seriously,
Mm,
and to be seen as assets,
mm,
and to recognize that they have value and they are not just here to be taught, they are also here for us to learn.
mm,
So the more opportunities we create for them to teach and for them to be able to share. See, because there's this intuitive part, this
yes.
intuitive nature that
Right.
young people have
Yeah.
that never get expressed because we're so busy teaching them. We're
Wow.
so busy telling them what to do.
Yes.
That, I believe that, God has gifted us with these beautiful human beings who come here prepared to share,
Wow.
come here ready to give us medicine and lessons. And if we just relax, if we just lean back, and let them gift us with this beauty, I think we'll all be better off.
Wow. Yes. Well, you just flipped the narrative right there, because who are really the teachers? Who are really who really should be learning? And I think what I saw there, as you were talking, I really saw that when children come in to our environments, when they come into the buildings, when they come into a school, when they come into a classroom, we are really seeing the teachers walk in. And
Mm-hmm.
and they are the conveyors of everything that's going on in the world, good and bad. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there and if we would just, as you said, lean back, sit back, and listen, and take in, and then join with them in figuring out, how do we handle this? How do we balance this? What part of this do we need to put away, and what part do we need to carry on to add to our own narrative and our teachings?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much there, but I just want to thank you, and congratulate you, on
Thank
behalf of so many children that have come through there, and you've given them the opportunity, you've given them a space to be, to feel honored, to feel loved, to feel welcome, but you've given them also the opportunity and the guidance to create a
you.
better world for all of us. And I think if we had more little black pearls all across this country, I think we'd be in a better place. And even when things, tough happen, and struggles happen, at least they would have a place to go where
Yeah.
where they could figure it out. And I think that's what we need in this country. We need more spaces in which we can collectively figure it out. And so, my sister, I just want to thank you so much for everything you do. And I'm excited as we go forward, because we have some wonderful efforts and projects, and things coming together. But what I'm really looking forward to is when this pandemic is over, and we can get together, and I can hug you, and then we can eat together. And I know
Yes.
I know you got a restaurant over there. I want to eat some of that good food, and then I can listen to some good music, and we can just have a good time again.
I'm looking forward to that too. I want to say thank you to you for just being a brother to me and, encouraging me and supporting me and being a good friend. I value that, and it's such a blessing in my life and in my family's life. So we all send you so much love
Mm,
and so much appreciation
thank you,
for
man.
the gift that you bring to our life.
Thank you so much. So as we finish today, we sit with so many blessings and so many teachings, and I'm going to ask all of you that are listening, just to take a deep breath. Let's just all breathe in and just receive that, and then breathe out and let go of whatever you need to let go of, so that maybe we could make a little bit more space for these children, a little bit more space for their sacredness, a little bit more space in us so we can love them, and a little bit more space so that we can collectively, learn together and grow together, heal together, and create more spaces in which we can, feel sacred together. I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank the ancestors for guiding us today. And, I want to challenge all of you that you have children in your life. Take these teachings and apply them in your homes, and apply them in your communities, apply them in your schools, and whatever children are around, but also apply them to the child within yourself. That
Mm,
child within you, love yourself, and listen to yourself, and pay attention, and then go create in a good way. Invite you to offer any reflections that you have on this podcast today. Share this with others. and continue listening that way. And we just want to thank you so much for being part of this journey with us. Thank you so much, Glasgow Madly.
Thank you.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.